Hello, everyone. Happy Wednesday. It's hump day. It is Wednesday, September 8th, 2021. I am Solid Blue Sister, and this is My Turn to Talk. Okay, everyone. So, today we are going to talk about, well, the subject is what is the one thing you would change in history? If history could have a do over, what is the one thing you would change? Would it be a relationship? Would you marry someone else? Would you have done better in certain classes or in school? Um, what would you change? Would you change someone that you voted for? Would you want to do a do over there? Would you change a particular job that you took? If you had your choice between this job A or job B, would you have taken job B instead of job A? What would you change in history? Now, for me, what I would change in history if I could do a do over is, um, and this is something that I think about. What would the world be like? What would America be like? How different would it be if there was no slavery? None. Zilch. And I would say slavery across the world. If there were, if the Middle Passage didn't happen, if there were no caste systems, like in India, you know, um, or here in America. Here in America, we do have caste systems, you know, the haves and the have-nots. Some people think they're better than others because of the color of their skin or their socio-economic background. Um, that is one thing that I would change. If slavery uh, was not, um, if slavery was not a factor mainly in America. Now, I would also probably, in fact, I know I would. I would change some relationships that I had. um, uh, one particular person that I dated, I never would have dated that person at all. Um, you look back at your life and you wonder, what would you do over in life? Um, but in history, um, what would you do over? Hello, shy lady. And I think about the whole slavery thing. I find myself thinking about it a lot because I wonder if slavery did not exist. How different would this world be? Would people who have generational wealth have that wealth? Would Because you have to think about it. When you had slavery, you had cotton fields, you had tobacco, you had sugar cane. Um, and because you had slaves to who, they were the labor, those families became rich. And that money was passed down from generation to generation. So if there was no slavery, and again, this is me, this is my do over. How would people of African descent, how would our lives be different? You know, um, would they be better? Would they be worse? You know, So that would be my do over in history. So, Shy Lady, you're one of the first one that popped up. So, if you could do a history do over, what would you do? Okay, and I do believe Shy Lady's trying to get on. There we go. There we go. So, if you could do a do over, what would you do? A history do over.
Um, I actually thought of the same thing. I was thinking a little slightly a tad bit different because if slaves had never come over to the Americas, I probably wouldn't exist. Because I know you and I and like a lot of African Americans, descendants of slaves, we have family members that were white. So I my do over would be the slave trade happened. It was a horrific thing that happened. But if the slave trade was going to happen, because it brought me into existence, and I wish it did not have happened. But if the slave trade happened, the do over I wish would have happened is we would know where we came from. Where did our bloodline originate? Because unfortunately, all of the people were sold off, families were broken up, sold. No one knows. It's the same question you had back a few shows ago about when kids are in history class and they're asked to trace their roots. And then there's a point where we can't go no further. My kids had to do this assignment as well. And as far as we could go back, like on my father's side, was his grandfather was from Puerto Rico, and we couldn't get no further than that. So there's a point where you just can't go back any further.
And I agree with you on that. My three times grandfather, he was white. Um, um, but knowing that I would not be here, um, that's true. Or I could be another person. I mean, I don't
Right.
know.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
the fact that I would not want slavery here at all because slavery was a just a blight, not just on America. You look at the West Indies, British people. They had slaves, um, and it's interesting because again, slavery did not start in. I know a lot of people look at it as uh, the Middle Passage 1619, when actually it was more like 1502, 1503. But you had indentured servants who were Europeans who were kicked out of Europe, and basically they said either you're going to get on this boat and go to America and be an indentured servant for 7 years, or you're going to go to Newgate Prison. And Newgate at that time was a horrific place, and people got on the boat. But in America, when they saw that after 7 years that they had to, release these people, or if they kept them, they had to pay them. They saw that, hey, the West Indies and Britain and all these other places, they're going to Africa. Let's go there and we can get free labor. So I just look at it like if just slavery did not exist, what would this world be like? It would be a completely different world. And America, it would just be different. I don't think we would have the well, we may, but I don't think that Native Americans would be treated the way they were treated. Um, I don't think the Chinese people, when they came over, would be treated the way they were treated. I just think that the world would just be a completely different place, and I think it would be a nicer place.
I agree. And how about if the Europeans never came over and took over the lands that they did? They took over. basically the world. They went over into Africa and colonized those places. They colonized several of the islands, the British islands as well as the U.S. islands. They also colonized Australia,
Hmm.
and you see people now, and they did the same thing, like like I said, South Africa and several other countries. And you look at Australia now, and you only associate Australia with white people, the outback. Um, but yet, those people that were indigenous were really, I don't know if you can say they were considered black, but they certainly did look black features. They were very dark, much
Are
darker.
you
The
talking about
Aborigines,
the Aborigines? Well, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, and they are, in my opinion, they are the Australian people.
they are
And I would say
absolutely,
that probably the same thing with South Africa. South
yeah,
Africa, it was also colonized.
yep, exactly. Hmm.
So I don't know if you were on the show a couple of months ago when Monica said that all white people do is take, 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 and they take.
Hmm.
And uh you've made a very good point. It's like they've gone and they've colonized all these other places, because when you look at it too, the beginning of the world was the African continent.
Hmm.
I mean, so we all come from Africa. I don't care if you say that you're from Ireland or from Brazil or Europe, whatever. You are, Scotland. Your people, you trace them back far enough, they came from Africa.
Hmm.
So you're right. I mean, I just look at it as picking up on what you said. How would America be if they if people from the Mayflower, they didn't come over, or people were running from King George and what have you. Just what would America be like if the Native Americans were able to keep their land and do with their land what they wanted? The
and
world would be a much better place because they respected the land, and they still do.
but not only that, but to see that whole group of people not almost become genocide,
Hmm.
and also the fact that the people that are currently existing, they have been mixed with white and watered down. There's still some that are natives. They haven't mixed with other races. They're still indigenous people as far as their bloodline. But when you think about the fact that they took their land and they have a high uh, alcoholism alcoholic alcoholism. I can't even say the word today. They have a very high rate of alcoholism in their race. They have a very high. They also have from what I've read, very low education, and it's really sad. Those people are almost extinct.
They are.
And if they had not come over, they would probably be very heavy populated.
Well, I mean,
And
but look at the Native Americans that are extinct. Look at the Aztecs. The Aztecs were Native American people,
hmm.
and
Hmm.
when Columbus came over, or when the Spaniards, when they invaded, they brought disease and
Uh-huh.
syphilis and
Yep.
malaria and all these other places, and they killed off an entire group of people. I mean,
Yep.
just gone.
Yep. And they also
And
did that
the
in the Pacific
Mayans.
Islands too.
Hmm. Hmm. So you look at this, and you just say, what if, you know, this had never happened? The world, I think, would be a much better place. And honestly, I think if Native Americans were in charge, I don't think that we would have shopping malls everywhere. I don't think that homes would be built um, on all this land where animals used to live, and now, they have no place to live, and we're killing their habitats, whatever. Because I think that Native American people, they respect the land.
Hmm.
And you look at, I mean, look at what the government did to, where is Mount Rushmore? What state is that in? Is that North
I think the
Dakota?
Dakota.
The Black Hills. I mean, they're still, the Native Americans are still fighting for that land.
Hmm.
And what did the government do? Oh, here, sure, go and we'll sell you this much, and go and you know put 4 white men
Hmm.
up on the side of a mountain. So I don't know. Let me ask you this: in terms of your personal life, is there anything that you would do over?
Um, I probably would have taken my craft a little bit more serious as far as writing.
Hmm.
I would have pursued that more seriously. I'm now back trying to do that, but something I probably should have done when I was in my 20s at the time, but I kind of just put it aside, and it's something I had wanted to do all my life, and I just kept putting it off. And then when I did finally write a book, I didn't get the feedback as far as the recognition, or the whole blow up of the whole writing scene. It didn't happen the way I wanted, so I kind of got discouraged. But I realize older I get that nothing is easy, and you got to hustle and hump and grind no matter what your craft is. You got to hump and grind, and nobody's going to give you anything. You got to earn it. You got to work for it. You got to get out there and hustle, which is
So
something that
have
I
you thought
wasn't willing
about
to do.
have
Hmm.
you thought about republishing your book?
I am actually trying to work on a play version of it. I'm thinking about making it into a play in the local community here. Um, redoing it into that format, finding some local actors, and just see where it goes.
Oh, okay.
And I was kind of discouraged. I was like, well, I'm older now, but I don't really think it's about age. It's about the grind, and it's not even really about talent in a lot of cases. Even though I believe that my writing is very good, I've been told by many people, but there's certain people. There's a lot of movies I see on the big screen, and I think a lot of writing is trash, but they're making money. So who am I to say? You know what I'm saying? A lot of people. I'm like, how in the world? How in the world is this even being done? It's kind of like these
Well, okay,
restaurants.
okay, but do you think a lot of that in terms of success, and see, it's interesting. We always start off with one subject and then we
Yeah,
evolve
we
into
do. We
another.
always into something else.
Okay, so do you think that some of that success that people have is nepotism and who you know?
Um, it depends. Now I'm gonna go off of. I don't have a stats, but I've read articles. I think for white people, it may be nepotism and who you know, but for black people, I think it's more of a hustle and a grind. When you think about people like Spike Lee, Spike Lee went to NYU after he went to Morehouse, but Spike Lee, I think he went. I think he did everything he could to try to get people to get on board and invest in his project. She's got to have it, but he wound up having to do everything on a credit card on his own.
Yep.
So, like I said, I think for Black people it's different. Same thing with the Wayans. They hustled and grind. Nobody. They didn't know anybody. They had to make it on their own. Robert Townsend, even Tyler Perry.
One interesting thing about the Wayans is whenever, if if ever they are, if ever a sibling or a family member, be it a niece and nephew or whatever, if they have a TV show that's on the air,
Hmm.
um, and more than one Wayans is on the air, they have a TV show. They have it in their contract that their show cannot be on at the same time that the other sibling or the other family member's show is on. If the other family member is on another network, they refuse to do that because they don't want to compete against each other.
That's good. I think that's great.
It is. It is. But when you look, the reason why I was asking about nepotism is because, I watch. Yes, I do. I watch the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. Okay, I am like stuck to it. Okay, and I look at the last couple of seasons and just the last 10 or 15 years. What happened to people who, and mainly girls, women, who are models? And before you would take your, portfolio, whatever, you would go from one agency to the other, whatever. Now it's celebrities' daughters who are all, big time models and what have you. You don't see the girl next door anymore. You don't see, your friend that you graduated from high school with. They're not models anymore. The only people who seem to be these supermodels are kids from famous parents.
Yep.
And and that's why I said, do you think it's who you know and it's nepotism? And because it just isn't right. It just isn't right. And only, few and far between do you see that no name person who is able to break out. But it seems like that if your mom or dad is someone famous, all of a sudden you're on the cover, or you're the main person at Fashion Week. I'm like, before, didn't you have to hustle to be on the cover? Didn't you have to like put in your dues to be on the cover?
Yep.
So hello, Juju. And let me ask you what SJ said. Do you believe that mainstream is rigged?
I do.
Okay, all right. So Juju, just so you know, and for SJ also, the subject started out with what is one thing you would change in history, and now, of course, as the show goes, we always end up talking about something else. So SJ, I'm going to invite you. Would you like to come on and talk and say why you think mainstream is rigged? If not, I have no problem with you being in the chat.
Come on, Pandora.
Oh gosh, I love to, but I have to leave for work soon. Not a problem. Thank you so much for liking the show. Thank you. Okay, not a problem. I always invite people. Invite people. So, let's see. I'm just looking. Did I miss? Okay, no. Juju was just saying hello. Juju was just saying hello. And Juju, I just muted you because your background noise was coming through. Okay, how long am I going to be on? I am going to be on for an hour. It's usually from for Pacific Standard Time, because I am on the East Coast from 1 to 2. But depending upon the subject matter, I have been known to go longer. If a lot of people want to start talking, but usually I am on for an hour, Monday through Thursday. So, okay, so Shy Lady, so is for your book, I know you said that you would try to, put it into a play. Is there anything else personally that you would do over? Because for me, it would be my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
That sophomore year of high school, it was like I fooled around. I was like, that first semester, and I think I told you guys this before. I don't know if I can't remember, but that first semester, sophomore year, that would be my do over when my mother threatened that if I didn't come home with A's and B's that second semester, and I was going to a private school, she was going to send me to the worst public school in Chicago, and I knew my mother meant it. So my first semester sophomore year, I would have not have hung out with the people that I was hanging out with. I would have buckled down and studied. I would not have been fooling around. But that is the one do over that when I think about it, that's what I would do. as well as not dating a particular boyfriend that I had. I wouldn't have dated him either, But anyway, you
I'll
remember
agree
that
with you on that too.
conversation.
That's one of the reasons why I told my kids when they got in high school, and I can actually say that I wish I could probably start high school over and probably make better grades. I mean, I still went to college and got a degree, but just the experience. And I always told my kids that if and times had changed because my kids got, for the most part, academic scholarships, not total full rides, but partial merit scholarships for academics or whatever. But I told my kids, I said, I'm not trying to be one of those strict parents when they were in high school and they start getting interested in dating. And I said, it's a waste of time. It's strictly a waste of time. It means, I said, it's just a distraction to keep you from being your best. And that's what happened to me in high school. I could have been a better student had I not had the distractions of having a boyfriend in high school, which totally isn't necessary. Most of the time, those high school relationships don't last because people grow up. And my kids, they stuck to it. I mean, I wasn't like strict where you cannot go out, but I just emphasized that you will not probably be with this person in 4 or 5 years, and you're gonna grow up, you're gonna have different goals, and it's totally a waste of time to be spending hours on the phone talking about absolutely nothing.
That is so funny. Well, I didn't have to worry about the whole boyfriend thing in high school because I was a total nerd. I was a straight up nerd in high school. So the boys were not chasing me. So I never had to worry about the boyfriend thing. But I was hanging out. Like I said, that sophomore year, I was hanging out with the wrong crowd that I got myself together. But I do agree with you that in high school, when you are dating, usually those relationships don't last. You grow up and you move on. Hello, the only crazy lady, and I'm saying hello to Daniel. So, is there anyone else here that has just joined who would like to share what would you change in history, or if you had a do over in your personal life, what would you do over? And one other thing, I would also not have bought a particular car that ended up being a total lemon. I would not have bought a particular car, but yeah. But relationship wise, I definitely would not have dated a particular person that I dated. That was a total train wreck. Total train wreck. Anybody? Anybody? I know Crazy Lady is thinking. I would totally change hitting moose. Okay, you're gonna have to explain that one, Crazy Lady, because I don't understand that one. I would change hitting moose. Are you talking about hitting? Are you talking about hitting a that event has changed my life? Crazy Lady, I am totally lost. I do not know what you mean by hitting moose. Are you talking about hitting a live moose as in a moose, or is this something else? I'm like lost here. Oh, you hit a moose on a motorcycle? How did you hit a moose on a motorcycle? And you says, "Good Lord." Okay, shy lady. Okay, crazy lady. You're gonna have to come on. You are gonna have. I was going about 60. Okay, you're gonna have to. He jumped out of some brush. Okay, crazy lady is coming on. Okay, crazy. What is up?
Hopefully there isn't an echo.
No, there isn't.
Yeah, it was like 2004 or 5. We were driving down. we were driving to Oregon, and we were up in the mountains, and I was coming around a bend, and this moose stepped out of the brush, right in front of me, and I hit him because I couldn't do anything else.
So, what happened to you and what happened to the moose?
When I hit the moose, it pretty much shattered his rear end, his back leg, and everything.
Oh,
And I have permanent bruises on my brain, which is like has caused. I mean, it's considered brain damage that causes issues. That's a permanent side effect from that event.
so okay. So
Break a bone.
I'm assuming that the police came or highway patrol or something, and
Yeah, I don't remember. Like, there's like some things I remember, but it's all scrambled up, and I don't remember seeing any police or, and I really don't remember like a year or two after that. It's all just like scrambled, and there's like holes, and most of it just doesn't exist. But I guess that's common with brain injuries or something. But
wow, that I mean, like SJ just said, that must have been very difficult to go through. Uh, so I'm assuming you went to the hospital, and were you in the hospital for an extended length of time, or?
like I said, I don't remember. I mean, I was told that I slipped into like a 2-week coma, and then I came out of it, and I don't remember. Like, I don't remember that time period. It's just it's weird, and sometimes it freaks me out. If I think about, it's like, well, how could you not remember? I mean but it happens.
Wow. I mean, that's like, wow. Wow. And then I'm assuming that when Highway Patrol came, they put the moose out of his misery.
Actually, no. My dad actually killed the moose, and he was a little bit mad that he goes, just let me take it. He goes, I'll take the whole thing off your hands. They're like, no, you can't do that. And my dad went into the camper and got it hacked off its horns, and says, I'm taking the horns.
Wait,
goes,
was
no.
the moose still alive?
Yeah, my dad.
Wait. Your dad took his horns and the moose was still alive?
No, it was after my dad shot the moose. Because what happened was I was driving a motorcycle that my brother had already sold, and we were actually delivering it. And my brother was like behind me coming down through the pass on my father's motorcycle. And my dad was like 10 minutes behind my brother in the RV, which had the bike trailer on it. And my brother, he saw the whole accident. He said that it stepped out. I couldn't do anything. And then by the time he got to where I'd landed, my dad was pulling up, and my dad, it didn't matter where on the planet that man was. No, that man always had a firearm. He always had his 45 right there on him. He shot the moose. And started blocking off traffic. And a trucker, they relayed, and I guess the state police showed up, and ambulances and everything. And my dad loaded up the bike on the bike trailer, and yeah. But
Wow.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
this was when in 2000 what?
Like 2004 or 5.
Okay. All right. Wow. I'm surprised, that you survived.
I know. Hey, the forces of nature had that. My time wasn't my time. That's what it was. It wasn't my time.
Well, I can see that being something that you would definitely, do a do-over or not, or would change rather.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then I don't think would mess up my timeline with my kids, because both my children were born.
So they were born after that or before that?
Yeah. So, it wouldn't, because I thought about questions like there's certain events that, like, if I could change it, I would, but if I changed it, I would lose out on like this other thing happening, and other thing happening was a wonderful thing. That's a difficult question.
Wow. 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 That is unbelievable. That is unbelievable. Wow. I mean, Crazy Lady, it seems like you have a very interesting life.
And on the motorbike, the gas tank, there wasn't a scratch or a dent on the gas tank either, and that was like another. My dad thought that was just the weirdest thing ever.
So were you going too fast?
No, actually, I wasn't. Uh, it happens with deer and with moose and with elk. Sometimes you're riding along and they just poof out of brush or like out of a ditch into the middle of the road. And a moose is a big animal. They're like pretty much as big as a horse. And he said it was because it was coming around a curve, but I was going downhill, and Anthony said it came out of some thick brush and just went flip right into the road, and I hit it right when it plopped into the road.
Wow. Well, let me ask you this, Crazy Lady. Is there anything in history you would change?
See that I think about all events, and some events that I would change brought that were evil and bad brought about an awareness or a change. So I'm still thinking on that one.
Okay. 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 For me, before you came on the show, I said the one thing that I would change is that slavery never happened. I think that the United States especially would be a different place if slavery never happened. So that would be the one thing in history that I would change. But personally, it would be my sophomore year of high school and someone that I dated. So Juju, let me ask you: is there anything in history that you would change, or you would want to see a do over? And I'm going to mute you, Crazy Lady, until you want to come back on and talk. There we go.
Not really. Really, I can't think of anything, to tell you the truth.
Okay. All right.
Really. If I do, I will let you know.
Okay. Well, I wasn't expecting you to come on and talk. I thought you were going to type it in. So, okay. And I'm
That's okay.
glad to hear your voice.
Oh, thank you. Nice hearing your voice and everyone else that's on the show.
Well, you know, I'm 59 years old, and some people may think that's old. Some people may, think that's uh, young, whatever. But um, when I think of things in history, I would really like for, and this is one thing Charlotte and I were talking about. I think that uh, I would change how Native Americans are. I don't know if I want to say are treated, or just that their lot in life would be a lot better. And before some of you guys came on, I was saying that I do believe that if Native Americans were in charge, um, the land, just mainly just talking about America, uh, would be better. I think Native Americans, they respect the land, they respect nature, and I think that we wouldn't see all these shopping malls and strip malls, and all this concrete around the world or around the country if Native Americans were allowed to flourish, if things were not taken away from them. And Crazy Lady says that could have been done differently. Just if people had just left them alone, instead of trying to take over, just let them alone. Um, what would this country be like if Native Americans were left alone? If the Aztecs were still here, how would the country be? How would the world be? Shiley and I were talking about how a lot of this world was colonized. And Shiley was talking about Australia as an example. But it would just be very interesting to me to see if a lot of things were not taken over, if a lot of things were not taken away from particular groups of people, how would this world be? And I think it would be a much different world, and I think it would be a better world. But that's just my own personal opinion. So I don't know. Does anybody want to add anything to what I just said? Anybody? Okay.
On the native Indian, I put it in chat, but and this is a fact. Megan, my friend, she's a Yakima Indian. She was the one who informed me. She goes, "Do you know that every treaty that the U.S. government has made with the Indians has been broken by us, not by the Indians, by us? Every single one."
I can totally believe that. And I mean, but it was broken because of greed. I mean, when it comes down to it, it was broken because of greed and power. So if you take away the greed and power, and if Native Americans were left alone and those treaties were honored, maybe what is it? Little Bighorn, never would have happened. You would not have had mass slaughter of Native Americans by the U.S. Army. I mean, people came, even when people started moving out west, it's like, we're going to take this land. You look at California. California used to be part of Mexico. But once again, you had greedy people who wanted the land. So we could learn from their culture. Yes, there's a lot to be learned from Native Americans. Let me ask you this: that culture is so rich, and they had tribes all over. Yes, there were many, 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 many Native American tribes. So, Crazy Lady, let me ask this, because I'm asking the question from an African American woman to a Caucasian woman. Do you think that if white people had not of come over from Europe and wanted to colonize not just places in America, but different places around the world, that things would be different? And okay, I was going to say, if you think I'm putting you on the spot, then you don't have to answer. Okay, all right. The only okay, okay, you like the show. Thank you. Do you think that okay, let me put it. How do you think it would be different?
their own cultures would have been able to thrive and flourish and develop into, who knows, awesomeness, you know? Um, and they would still have their own language.
So, do you think that Native Americans have the right to go back and, if they wanted to, like claim the land that was stolen from them? I mean, do you think that that Native Americans have that right? Okay, okay. So, Shy Lady Juju, what do you guys think? Do you think that a Native American tribe could come in, or any of the nations could come in and say, we want to sue for the land that was taken away from us? Do you think that they would have a valid argument? Can anyone deny that they have been robbed? Crazy lady, I guarantee you somebody would deny that they have been robbed. Okay, Shy Lady, what were you going to say?
Um, I was going to say that they have a valid point. This was their land. They, and unfortunately, they're almost extinct due to um, diseases brought over, from Europeans, and then the whole, the fighting wasn't fair. They were fighting against bullets versus bow and arrows, so they didn't have a fighting chance, honestly.
Do you think that I think, is it the Lakotas? I'm trying to remember for North Dakota, for the Black Hills. Do you think that the U.S. government, should turn that land over to the Native Americans? I personally think that we should.
Absolutely, it was their land from the get go. So yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Do you realize that if land was turned over to Native Americans, how much land they would have? They would have like the majority of America, and I say, hey, let them have it. You know, um, I don't know. When you look at history, when you look at things that we could possibly change, you know, there were so many cruel things in history, that have happened, since God created, Adam and Eve. There's just so many things that we as humans have, done wrong. Um, I think if God did a do over, I say let him put animals at the top of the food chain and put humans at the bottom. Because as I've said before, um, you know, um, we have not. I don't think God's too pleased with us. So if he did a do over, let an animal be at the top and we're at the bottom. Let an animal hunt us instead of us hunting them. you know. And Crazy Lady says the hubby just spent $1,400 on a truck. Okay. But I don't know. Um there's so many things in history that I would just do over. And a lot of it stems from, slavery, the way Native Americans were treated, the way the Chinese Americans were treated. And when I bring up Chinese Americans, I'm mainly talking about the awful way they were treated. When the railroad was being built, and the recognition that they did not receive. Um, but this would be a completely different country. This would be a completely different world if slavery, in my opinion, did not exist. You know, what if it had been where when when Europeans were kicked out of Europe and they came over to America and they were indentured slaves, or not indentured slaves, I'm sorry, indentured servants for 7 years. What would happen if that um, particular uh, what's the word I want to use? That particular thing continued on. If if for 400 years there were in indentured servants, you know, how would the world be different? Would people would cotton have been king in the South? With tobacco and sugar cane, would all those have been, cash crops because you were using indentured servants as opposed to slaves? It was legal slavery. It was legal slavery, but it was only for 7 years. You know, um, what what would what would it be like? You know, if there was no slavery, would we have even known who Martin Luther King was? Would we have known who John Lewis was? I mean, John Lewis could probably still be, a representative, but would we know who these people were? Because we would not have needed to know who they were, because the the struggle, they would not have had to deal with that struggle. And yes, indentured servitude did go on until the late 1800s. Um, you know, I mean, there's just so many things to me that would just be different if you took slavery out of the equation. You know, so when you look at things like critical race theory, look, okay, the Holocaust, very, very good point. What if the Holocaust had never happened? How would, places like Poland be different if the Holocaust never happened? How would, Jewish people be different if the Holocaust never happened? You know, I think this would be a very different world, and it would be a better world. Some of the science would have never come about. Okay, are you saying that if the Holocaust had never happened, that uh, some science never would have come about? Is that what you're saying, crazy lady? And Juju, you unmuted yourself. Did you want to speak? Did you want to talk? Oh, okay. I'll mute you again. All right. So, some of the discoveries. Okay, are you talking about the discoveries because of the Holocaust? I'm a little confused here. Hubby is home and on the phone. Okay. 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 All right. Not a problem. Not a problem. Okay. So I mean, I just look at, this world as a whole, and I think if you for me personally, and I feel very strongly about that if you take slavery out of the equation, this would be a completely different world. But that's just me. Some of the Nazi Party scientists made some good science. Such as, because I know they did a lot of experiments on the Jewish people, but what was good science? You're going to have to enlighten me on that one. Genetics, in terms of, or such as, and I know you're typing, so That's interesting. So crazy. I'm sorry, shy lady. What do you think about what crazy lady just said in terms of Nazi scientists and the Holocaust and what have you? If you have an
I
opinion.
know they did experiments on them, but like you, I don't know what specifically. She said genetics, but I don't know. I don't think I've heard anything that came about
Well, she
from
said,
them.
well, she just said a lot of research was done in DNA testing theories. So DNA. Okay, so let me ask you this: are you talking about that research that was done using Jewish people, and that's how they came to these theories and this research? Because I'm assuming that. Okay, so all right, then I am going to have to disagree with you on that because if you're okay, made some good science, but look at how they made the science. Did the science come about because they did live testing on human beings? So I don't know if I would have to necessarily give them props for that. I don't know if I would consider that good science when you're using human beings. I mean, I can go. That reminds me of the Tuskegee uh, experiment with the whole syphilis thing. So I don't know if I would necessarily call that good. I don't give good props for how they came about it. Okay, okay, okay. But would you still consider it good science, though?
Okay, he's gone now.
All right, go ahead.
um, it's like, yeah, I that's like one of those, if you could change history, but by changing, like making the Holocaust never happen, some of that science that was done may have never have happened, never, yeah, it's darned if you do and darned if you don't. You know what I mean? It's like if you change a certain event in life, maybe your kids will never been born, type of scenario. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, but I don't know. I guess I'm just having a problem with the fact that
I have a
I
problem
would
with
I would not call it good science, especially if it was done with
they
humans.
discover like certain things that uh in the DNA that they were able to like there was like some major disabilities and stuff that was like isolated. Um and the cloning thing, it's it's not like good science, but I mean it's like a lot of science came from that research that was good, that was able to help mankind. You know what I mean?
Help mankind or help the German people?
No, help mankind. But the research, but the initial thought process, and hey, uh, blah blah blah, unfortunately came from a Nazi scientist, whom like over half the scientists that the Nazis had were being held there against their will anyway. You know what I mean?
Okay, so were those Nazi scientists or were those Jewish scientists?
Uh,
Or I'm not even saying Nazi. Were they German scientists? I'll put it like that.
yeah, they were German scientists, and they act, and there was a lot of Jewish scientists that the Nazis kept alive because they were, human, brain tanks. They were that era's smart people. I
So
mean,
let me ask this: do you think that these scientists we could consider them Hitler's monsters?
there was a couple that they were, yeah, monsters, and they should have never have been given free reign to do what they did. Um, but there were scientists, that was working for the Nazis, not because they wanted to, but because they had to, because their families were being held, or manipulated. Einstein was one of them. You know, he was saved, but originally, uh, the Nazis, he's Austrian.
Right.
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 Germany took over Austria, early in the game, real early in the game. That's just, it. I'm not saying that the Nazi Party was correct in, a lot of their policies. No, they weren't. But yeah, it's just weird the way I
Okay.
think.
All right. All right. I mean, no, you made your point. Oh my goodness. This, once again, every time I have a show, it evolves into something else and everyone always is able to put in their opinion. And that's one thing that I like, about doing this show, that, that everyone has an opportunity to say, whatever they want to say. So I appreciate you guys. I really, really do. So, but we are at the 2 o'clock hour here on the West Coast. And that's all I've got, unless anybody else wants to say anything. Anybody?
And
If not, I will see you tomorrow. So, again, I'm Solid Blue Sister. This is my turn to talk, and you guys enjoy the rest of your day. Bye. Thank you, everyone. And Crazy Lady, thank you so much for your participation. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your likes. Trying to get more viewers here. You are helping me, so thank you. And yes, I agree. The younger generation, they are very aware. I think the younger generation across the board, in terms of, whether you're black, white, Asian, Latino, I think the younger generation, they are very aware of a lot of things that we were not. And definitely that our parents were not. So yes. Okay. Was it a good field trip? Was it a good experience? It was an eye opener. Okay. And that is the end of the song. I will see you next time. Bye.